Hey there, folks, and welcome back to the I Am CDB Project. I, of course, am your host, CDB. You are not, and today we're going to use the old maca root, which I'm almost finished with. So we'll get our West Coast brush and wet that, and I'm just going to dip it in there and grab hold of some of this. I'm going to do a sort of a head and face shave. I'm just going to sort of do it all today in one. So it might take a little bit longer than usual, and just sort of chat about some things. See, there's not really that much in there, but hopefully it'll be enough. Anyway, one of the reasons I want to make this video is because, you know, I follow people on Twitter, and I'll see folks like Alyssa Milano, who if you don't know, she's a Hollywood actress, most popular during the, I want to say 80s for the show Who's the Boss. So it's most likely well off, advocates for a lot of things, climate, who knows what, on any given day. But she's sort of taken to crying and carrying on and so forth on Twitter, and she's so worried about her daughter's future. And I get that, I think, from a environmental perspective and so on and so forth. But apart from that, let's be real. I mean, she lives in the United States, one of the richest countries in the world, if not the. She's most likely well off, has done well in her life, and her child will have many, many opportunities by virtue of that wealth. We live in a time where all the information and recorded history is available in your palm on your phone, and children have phones by the time they're 10, 12 years old or younger in this country. They can stay in constant communication with their friends, regardless if their friends go to another school or move. You can order things online. For example, I have done 100% of my Christmas shopping online. I haven't stepped foot into a store this year for Christmas, and I don't think I did. I might have stepped in one or two last year. But anyway, you can almost get anything, including food, without ever going anywhere or doing anything. And that, I think, is part of the problem. People used to have to go do things. So, for example, if you were doing a research paper or a paper when you're in school, you had to go to the library, look at encyclopedias or periodicals. It took a lot of time. And maybe you met some friends there and so on, and worked together and giggled and got called out by the librarian. But it took time. It took time. Whenever you met up with friends, you had to sort of, I'll meet you here. And if somebody was running late, you had to wait. Anyway, you had to go out and you had to do things. Things took time. If you wanted a pizza, you could call and order a pizza, but then you had to have a cash or a check, and you had to actually speak to a human. Now you can order pizza or virtually almost any kind of food right on your phone, not having to talk to anybody, except for maybe the delivery guy when they come. You can pay and tip and not have to do anything. My personal feeling is that the void that's been created by not having to do things and not having to take time to do things, because our life is so convenient. Like I mentioned the other day, bus stops at every house. You don't even have to walk, to a regional bus stop. Things have gotten so easy and so good, I would argue, that the void that has been created, people use to complain non-stop about how terrible everything is, how awful everything is. But in reality, for most people, no. This is assuming you either have a family that working people and that, you're at least making a living wage and so on and so forth. But if you fall into that category, which, most do, life is pretty good relative. It was much harder to grow up in the, 60s, 70s, 80s, even 90s, early 90s even. We didn't have all the things we have today, where you can order groceries and have them brought to your house. I mean, everything, we can almost get anything instantly. Like I said, staying in contact, like before, back even in the 90s, if you got deployed like I did overseas and you tried to call home, it was several dollars a minute in a lot of cases. And so you could call home maybe one time a week, talk to your wife or family or mother or father or whomever. And it was expensive. Now, unlimited call plans, FaceTime, video conferencing, you can stay in touch constantly, texting, Facebook, Twitter. Everybody has a voice, all right, basically, unless you're just indigent or have zero money and no ability to do anything. Then, of course, it's obviously going to be difficult. But that's not most people in this country by any stretch of the imagination. So, especially the affluent people who are constantly going around complaining about how difficult everything is and how scared they are. Basically, we have more rights than ever. We have more ability to express ourselves. Now, admittedly, I'm concerned about the power that these tech companies wield over us in terms of banning people and stifling speech. But generally speaking, we still, have the ability to do more things than we ever have and the ability to be heard just like I am here and so on and so forth. Imagine trying to get word out like this in 1985 or so. It wouldn't be possible to reach thousands of viewers as I am today. It's a different world entirely. And I understand that in some ways that makes it more complex because you have to deal with more people. But on the other hand, things that took you a tremendous amount of time, Christmas shopping, for example, before you can do instantly like this, boom, got this person that I'm sending gifts to homes. I'm having them wrapped directly from Amazon. And it's all handled like that. And they're getting them and they're being delivered straight to their door. Whereas before, if you had relatives that lived out of state, you'd have to go buy Christmas gifts, take them to the post office or UPS, pay to have them shipped, so on and so forth. And now today we're on Amazon or some other retail website, and within a couple of days, bam, they've got it delivered. You can even have them wrap it. So I think people need to settle down. We all complain, and things aren't always ideal. I complain myself. But realistically, I am very much aware that I'm living probably in one of the best times in terms of you couldn't really have it any easier. Life and information is so readily available and easy, and if you want to learn things, that learning is easy. It doesn't require a lot of effort other than you have to sit there and read it. Whereas before, people who were informed had to pay for magazines and newspapers and really had to make an effort, to either pay to have them delivered to your house or to go out and seek them out. Go to a bookstore, go to, all these things that seem just antiquated now, although I realize there's still a lot of old-fashioned bookstores that people really like, and I do too, where you go in, you get a coffee, they have books and magazines and periodicals and so on. That's good. I'm glad it hasn't disappeared. The point I'm making is folks should really generally be more grateful for what they have. And especially people like Alyssa Milano, who probably by most standards had a pretty blessed life, I would imagine. Again, I don't know every detail about her, but she was lucky enough to have talent as an actress and probably made a very good living and can provide well, I'm sure, for her daughter. And I appreciate the fact that she's an advocate, for all the causes that she believes in. But my goodness gracious, this constant crying and, I'm afraid for my children's future. And it's like, holy mackerel, seriously? What do you think people used to think back in the 50s? My aunt, for example, had polio. We've pretty much eradicated those things, although I must admit, with all the things that are going on with the anti-vaccination folks, we're threatening to bring these diseases back. But generally speaking, science has progressed. Everything has just gotten generally easier, most things safer. And despite the fact that we talk a lot about how dangerous everything is, generally, if you are in a decent neighborhood and so on. Generally speaking, things are pretty safe. And so, but yet we hear just all the time about how bad everything is. And I just think it's ridiculous that you have these people like, Ruffalo or Mark, the guy that plays the Hulk now, who's basically ruined the Hulk, just constantly drawing on about how bad everything is, and it's awful, and it's terrible, and capitalism, he's made millions of dollars, but yet capitalism is terrible. And I understand if you're, outside the U.S. and you're not a fan of capitalism, or even if you are in the U.S., but it tends to be what has been successful for us. That does not mean it's perfect, certainly not, but my goodness, these people like Bernie and Ruffalo and all, they're millionaires, but they're always, pointing their finger. You need to pay up, to all the other millionaires. I'm like, well, you guys are millionaires too. You're part of that club. It's not like you're one of us little people. They're not. But they would have you believe that they are. And the Alyssa Milano types that are constantly, carrying on. I'm like, you people are the ones who have the tall gates around your homes with, gated homes and security and all this stuff. And we don't. We're people who mostly, the average person here in the United States doesn't have all those things. But the ones who are constantly talking about, we don't need walls or barriers. When you go to their house, they have walls and barriers because they want everybody else out. And so they want to live their own lives behind a wall and to be afforded protection. And I think they have every right to do it. I'm not complaining that they have that. If you can afford it, you put up as much security as you want on your property in your home. You should do it. Do whatever you like. But don't complain when someone else does it. And don't complain when the country says, hey, we think we need to control immigration. That doesn't mean you're not in favor of immigration. That means we want to know who's coming in, We don't want to just have open borders, let's say. That's not an anti-immigration point of view, but that's what they tend to try to paint everyone as, which is just absurd. And it's just, if you read this stuff, it's just mind-boggling. You're like, wow. Everything is the most extreme. Like every comment that someone makes is the most extreme. I saw where they're now slapping Mayor Pete because at some point in time he was ringing the bell for the Salvation Army, which is a charity. It's exhausting. And honestly, I'm glad that most people probably aren't this way. I don't think maybe Twitter is a reflection of, what most people in America are, or I hope it isn't, because my goodness gracious. I think it's probably just the vocal minority. But man, they're talking about Mayor Pete now. He's got to be canceled. Cancel culture is just ridiculous. I hate it. But, he was trying to help the Salvation Army who help other people. Now maybe the Salvation Army as an organization, maybe your beliefs don't jive with their beliefs, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't exist and have the ability to believe what they believe and support their core tenets and all the rest, just like any other organization. I think they should all have a voice and, live and let live. But I don't know if you're on the wrong side of a particular issue or the perceived wrong side. There's a social media mob is out to get you. But you have all these people, and especially on Twitter, it's always Hollywood people with the, made millions using, all these things in their movies, and then they come out against those things, even though they've made millions. It's just, I tell you, sometimes it just, you just shake your head and go, wow, and you're just glad that your neighbor isn't that way, or your friends and so on. They're just sort of normal, and that you really hope that all these people that are constantly moaning, complaining, don't represent the majority. That's what I really hope. And I find that in my life, this is true, that most people aren't, crazy extreme in their beliefs, either, in a right-leaning fashion or leftist sort of fashion. But boy, in the social media world, It's just nonstop. And sometimes I just tune out, you know, because it's just like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. It's just, like I said today, I just happened to see the one where they're swinging on Mary Pete for ringing the bell for Salvation Army. I'm like, oh, seriously? You know, it's like, I don't know how it's going to be possible for anybody to be president in the coming years with this craziness of finding any little thing that some group doesn't agree with, and then they make it out to be, oh, you know, they can't do X or Y because they believe this. Everybody should be able to have whatever beliefs they want to, whether you agree or disagree. But anyway, the main point that I'm trying to make during this video is life is pretty good if you have the benefit of good health, you have a decent career or job. It doesn't mean it's perfect, and people still struggle, and I get that. I have myself, you know, even recently. But on the balance, life is pretty doggone good. I'm here talking to you all. I mean, I'm videoing this on the friggin' phone. I'm gonna upload it. I mean, it's really pretty good. So try to be grateful. That's my advice. And I realize not everybody will agree with that message, and especially people that struggle. They don't think there's an upside, but in this country, you know, if you have the benefit of hard work, there are possibilities. There's no guarantees, and there's no guarantee of equality, but you will have an opportunity if you work hard enough generally. And so try to be grateful. That's all. And try to be decent. You know, that's the other message I think I would like to send today. Anyway, it's been great chatting with you folks again with the head shave and, of course, use the Harry's. Mostly this was just a letting off steam because it's just so irritating sometimes that people just don't seem to be grateful. And I try to remain grateful, and so I hope you will too. Till next time, I've been your host, CDB. You are not. God bless.